He's a jolly good fellow.
Yeah.
And they like, Mr. Lovett, you're old. I'm like,
At least they
hey,
said Mr. Lovett with respect,
oh yeah, oh yeah,
with
yeah.
respect. Get put a little respect on my name.
That's right. That's right. For sure.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
man.
So that's that's cool. That's cool. I uh I was thinking about this the other day. Well, no, I watched this channel called The Deep End, and there's
Mhm.
this guy on there. He talks about very spiritual related things, and it's interesting because I find like as it for me as it gets closer to no the end of the year, November, that I'm getting more and more spiritual. Like
Mm.
almost like back like when I was back in 2013 when I got saved. Because when no 2012
Yeah, 2012.
2012
Fuck.
2012 February of 2012. Because but I guess 2013 is when I was on probably at the peak of it. Yeah. Yeah, because
Hey,
it was kind of
did you get saved at the same time? Like when you got baptized, was that a little bit after you got saved? You had gotten saved like,
I would say that I fell to my knees uh when I vividly remember falling to my knees when Lindsay and I broke up. That to me broke me to a place where I could not. I knew that what I was doing wasn't working and I needed help. And I just
gotcha,
finally surrendered. I remember
gotcha.
crying on my knees in the room, um, and asking God to save me. Now, I mean, my heart been broke, plenty of times before.
Yeah, but this one,
All, all,
yeah,
yeah, because for me, she was going to be, I mean, we were getting close to the 1 year mark. And for me, that was always like a benchmark to make it 1 year with anybody. And
yeah,
we had gone out to Katy, Texas together. I mean, I met her uncle. I hung out with her parents. I remember falling asleep in the parking lot with her stepfather because we were both worn out. I mean, just so many stories that, you know, I just could it have worked out between us?
hmm,
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like, the lady that you were dating back when we were roommates. Could it have worked out between y'all? I don't know, but ultimately at the end of the day, does it matter? No, because I've got two beautiful kids and I want one more, you know?
hmm.
And but that one broke me the most. And so when I asked for salvation and when I got, dunked, that's the moment I always go back to. I probably asked for salvation many more times before that, but that's the one that felt like it really resonated with me the most.
Yeah.
Um, But I just know that in 2013 is when I became the most evangelical, most like about my faith. I remember
Oh
even
yeah.
going to church, whether Jill would go with me or not, I would go to church. Because Jill
Hmm.
wasn't at the place where she wanted to go to church. And I respected that. I was like, that's fine. That's completely fine. If you're not ready, you're not ready. I wasn't ready. I was running out of the church whenever they passed a bucket for the tithes and offerings, man. I wasn't
Yeah,
ready.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
uh, but I feel like here lately, I'm drawn more towards spiritual things, wanting the spiritual topics, thinking, just I feel like for me, anything, and I know this is kind of heavy this early, but anything that is anti-human is it's evil to me.
Hmm.
Like anything that has a stance of doing something that's anti-human is evil to me. And the reason why is because if you think about it, let's just take the stance that humanity is made in God's image.
Hmm.
So the enemy, the devil, whatever you want to call them, what's the best way to get back at the one that you can't destroy? You pervert that image into your image. Isn't
Right.
that the greatest way to get back at somebody? Not only hurt them. I mean that would, you touch my kids, you're in trouble. But to change them, to get them to think and change their image, their behavior, their nature into you.
That's yeah.
And
Yeah,
he's
that's
already
tough.
trying to exalt himself above
Yeah.
him. Just change their image,
Man.
which is why it makes sense why salvation had to happen to change it back,
It is heavy,
to,
man. Yeah.
to give the pathway to change back. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
it's
That's
heavy to
heavy.
start off.
I appreciate I excuse me. I appreciate that though this morning. I really like enjoyed enjoyed you how you put that, the anti-human, because I was waiting for you to describe or explain what you meant, and that makes a lot of sense. And yes,
Doesn't it?
yeah,
Doesn't it?
man. And that's right. Yeah, that's what the enemy just tries to pervert everything about humans.
Humanity,
Their judge, how their perspective, bodies, like everything.
birth rates.
Yeah.
Think
And
about it. Birth
and
rates.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's crazy, but in that sense, I mean, we know the devil, the enemy, hates us, and
Yeah.
I think, I mean, one way, of course, one reason he hates, I mean, because he knows he can't ever be with God. He's
Yeah.
destined for hell, lake of fire for eternity. He can never
Hmm.
be with God. And I I imagine if he ever had any, well, no, the Bible says he was alive from the beginning. Um, he was alive from the beginning, and I can only imagine that, just from that verdict, the hatred, him and his demons, all of them. I mean, just his probably, it's grown. If it can
Hmm.
grow, it's grown because, I mean, again, no hope.
Right.
Unfortunately, I mean, it is what it is, but no hope.
Right.
That's the only way it can go. I mean, if there's 0% chance
A
of
victory.
redemption, yeah, victory. So
And also the other side
crazy.
of it is too, is you got to keep in mind the always the reasonable question is how? How did it happen?
Mhm.
Why? We know why, but how? Because I believe, could be wrong, always wrong, because Lord, unless the Lord decides to do something absolutely supernatural in this moment, I believe angels have free will.
Yeah.
That's the only explanation of the existence of why there would be evil. Something that would stand in direct opposition of, because if you're thinking, okay, I'm gonna listen, I'm gonna listen, I'm gonna listen, I'm gonna listen, I'm gonna listen. As a human, when do we not listen? Well, because, or why? Because there is free will in humanity.
Yeah.
So wouldn't that same what I think of, and I think of the movie City of Angels with Nicolas Cage, Meg Ryan, and that actor that played a cop, but he's the one that makes the case. He's like, don't you think he gave us the the same thing that he gave all these bozos? And Nick Cage, who is the angel, says, "What? Free will, brother." Remember that? Did you see that movie?
I think I remember that part, man.
Yeah, yeah. And I was like, yeah, that's it. Free will. That's the only explanation as to why this would be the way it is.
Y-
Such a deep movie.
It is, man. It's interesting. Um, and I guess taking it one more step when you talk about free will for the angels, I think because if we think free will, and we're thinking our shortcomings, then it's like, okay, well, but God, thank God for his grace and mercy. So then you think about the angels, and the thing that I concluded some time ago was that, because I asked why couldn't they be redeemed? And then I concluded that maybe it was because they knew, well, that their level of knowledge of the glory of God, they were in heaven. So
Hmm.
what is there to redeem them back from if uh
That's true. That's
one
true.
100% in the presence of God, and you still do that,
Wow.
because human beings, we
Well,
don't
yeah.
have that level,
As we
we're
know, as we exist right now,
exactly.
we've
Ex-
never known that
Exactly. So
experience.
that's where the faith is.
Wow.
And yes, it can be full in our hearts and everything, but again, the Bible even tells us we won't know until we see him,
Yeah. Yeah.
so we know in part, and I believe that's where a lot of that room for the mercy,
Yeah.
is, and
Yeah.
God's grace.
And
Yeah,
yeah, that makes sense. Plus, Jesus lived the human experience.
yeah.
You
So
know,
he
he
knows the temptation. Yeah, yeah.
made the choice of the human experience
That's right.
too.
And
Think about it.
angels,
He
that's
knows the
right.
experience of it, he chose the human experience after the fall, not before the fall,
Yeah,
after the fall. So he knows that experience directly, whereas angels, they've never known the human experience.
that's true. They
So
they only knew glory. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So it makes the argument too that again, these are all supernatural comments and commentary. Can Well, I mean, I guess a human, angel or demon could choose to be human, but how would that? I think that would be have to be a divine thing, because there was no record of the angels can embody. Well, okay, so the angels mixed with humans create Nephilim, right?
You're right. Right.
So, so, so in essence, angels can interact with humans to create creations of that nature. So is it possible for those creations to know redemption?
What's interesting? Two things. Not only did they create those, but I think it's somewhere in the word that they also created men of renown, giants and things like that
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well. Now I will say this. From my understanding, I haven't thought about this in a long time, but the ones that did that with humans,
Mm,
I think I was thinking, like I said, I haven't done my research in a while, but I thought
mm.
I remembered them being like the fallen angels. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Those were the ones. Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, thought
It's
this
all
was.
very fascinating, isn't it?
It is. It is. It is. Hey man, check out this piece real quick. I want to read it to you, but it's right
Sure.
in line with what we talked about. And I wrote it, I don't know, probably 6, 7 years ago. And it's called This is Creation. It says,
Is
For
this
God,
before or after the hell experience?
oh, after.
After.
This is
Okay.
at
All right.
least
Now,
at least for
this is interesting context. Okay, go
at
ahead.
least 5 years, 5 years after. For God so loved the world. Recently, I was pondering creation and the heartache that us humans go through. I was sulking in a moment of despair, wondering why we were made flesh when it dawned on me. Even man's fall was part of God's plan. Man was made flesh so that his mistakes wouldn't be eternal. You see, in this flesh, we are imperfect, never quite seeing the full picture. Therefore, we are only held accountable for what we know, and even then, we have the privilege of waiting patiently for the resurrection of our bodies and the full revelation of the glory to come. You see, when God said that man has become like us, knowing both good and evil, this wasn't a resolution of failure, but yet a declaration that God's plan was now in effect. You see, before creation, Lucifer and the third of the angels he deceived were cast out of heaven for their rebellion. God then decided to make man in his own image. He said, I will restore my kingdom with those that will reign with me for eternity, but this time I'll be sure that they cannot fail. Therefore, I won't grant man the opportunity to undo his perfection, so I will not put the burden of the full knowledge of the truth on him. Instead, when he is deceived by Satan to sin against me, there will be room for provision. It's at this point that he will be introduced to the knowledge of good and evil, and his very conscience will declare his guilt and need for me. I will honor that need because I have created him for it. This is my plan. If man chooses to say that he has no sin, then he is a liar, just as Satan was. But if he admits to his faults, repents, and accepts the provision of my son, whom I will send for his redemption, then he will live with me forever. You see, God established his covenant with man through faith so that the burden of perfection wouldn't be upon us, so that we would be perfected through the work of Christ, God's one and only perfect Son, now seated at the right hand of God, having defeated Satan. But this process wasn't easy for God. From man's fall to the crucifixion of Jesus, his heart was heavy. Man was so evil that God was remorsed and thought to destroy man, and then even repented for what he had thought to do. But the only way was the plan he had already set into place. What his commandments couldn't accomplish, and that man rejected them and became more sinful, the thing he dreaded most would. His son would have to come to earth to die a horrific death to take the punishment we deserved upon himself. And he did just that. While angelic beings had bowed themselves to be tempted by the daughters of men, Jesus endured every temptation of this sinful flesh and overcame this fallen world. And today he serves to intercede for all those who put their trust in him. You see, creation speaks of God every day. It is evident in our struggles, our heartache, and everything we go through that makes us human. It is through our sufferings that we learn to cry, Abba, Father. It is this the angels did not have, for they knew truth just as Christ did, so there was none greater that could redeem them. But unlike the angels, we have another chance. Therefore, we can fall 7 times and still get back up again. And as we discover truth with each victory in Christ, we march towards our heavenly homes. So the next time somebody asks you the reason for your assurance, ask, do you not know that we were an afterthought and the beneficiaries of the folly of angels? We were a species almost destroyed by God himself. If I were you, I'd take heed, for we are privileged to know life. And one day glory will be settled again, and there will be no Lucifer and no liars. This is creation.
That's good, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
You need to create a message around that. Or have you
Yeah.
already preached that before?
No, I haven't. I think one day I'm gonna record this and kind of make this I like
Oh
my
yeah.
pieces. The one day I'll
That was
record this
the
and make it, yeah.
what was it? The what they spoken word, right?
Yeah, man. I
That's right.
like that. Just haven't gotten back to
Is
doing
that
any in a while.
still going on?
Yeah, I haven't heard,
Wasn't it
you
like
know,
a movement?
I was about to say it was really hot in Montgomery too at one point in time. It's still big in
I
a lot of
heard of it through
places.
Jeff Bethke, Jefferson Bethke. That's when I first got introduced to that.
Mm. It's still a movement. I mean, it's still going on pretty strong. But but yeah, here in Montgomery, it's not as prevalent as it once was. Yeah.
Well, I went to the city, county, and Pike Road update this past Wednesday, and it's the annual update of what's going on in the city and the county, and uh, for Montgomery, at least public safety got addressed. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of good business things happening within Montgomery, and briefly was mentioned about, Melvin Brown resigning,
Mhm.
but not like a true address of like, I mean, it was like literally the day before they hired an interim superintendent, an interim person to handle the financial piece for the Montgomery public school system. And so, I don't know how much interaction you had with Dr. Melvin Brown, but I felt like that was a big loss for the education system just because so much commentary was made about it. And so, I feel like in any civilized society, there's got to be three things. The most important is a strong, stable household, teach having families that are united together. You know,
Mhm.
it's just my personal opinion, but I think families that are healthy have a good father, mother, and then kids. And then from there, you've got, your education system and your public safety.
Right. Right. No doubt, man. Yeah. Um, yeah, for sure, man. That was and that's significant when your leadership like that and leaves and I don't think he had
2 years,
been there, yeah, yeah, 2 years, and
2022.
that's honestly just to be honest, and when you're talking about running a school system, that's just enough to touch the tip of the iceberg because you're figuring out things and kind of just clearing the path
Right.
for implementing
And
ideas and
some
things like that. So
arguments were made that the members, so I'm not, I don't know a lot about how all this stuff works, but apparently in an education system within the city, there's a board of education. Is that right?
yeah, yep,
So
yeah.
apparently the board
I
were kind of handcuffing his
I heard, yeah.
abilities. And there are certain members of the board that they've been in there a little too long.
Yeah, I heard some of that. Yeah, man. Yeah, some of that old-fashioned bureaucracy, man, it's just I think the politics within Montgomery, within the school system, I think were a little bit much for him. I think like I said, this kind of just my speculation outside looking in, but I think he got in here and he realized lot more red tape, lot more resistance, lot more
Hmm.
things that were kind of set. Again, the bureaucracy set in his ways so much that it really felt like he probably wasn't gonna be able to make the progress he wanted to make. That's
Right.
my take, just outside looking
I think
in.
so. I
Yeah.
think so. I think that's a very, very political, correct
Yeah, yeah,
assessment.
exactly. Hey, man,
Very
I was,
conservative assessment.
I was interested in running. Believe it or not, when I can't move to Montgomery in
Really?
'07, I had aspirations, man. I actually wanted to be a like mayor
A
was actually
superintendent?
no
Mayor?
mayor. That was
Mayor?
actually yeah, and actually I thought about I was thinking about Montgomery and Birmingham, but that was again I'm my young 20s, but that was like a aspiration of mine because I've always I'm a big grassroots guy, but I had people talk to me about that. Say, Derek, you should really consider something like that and start taking that kind of thing
I
seriously. And
can
it was something I
see
was interested in.
I can
Yeah.
see I can see that side of you. Simply because of you were going to a lot of like community related functions and things like that.
Yeah, and when
I
I
could
when
see
I was
that.
and back then in my 20s, that's kind of how I moved. I was really big
Oh yeah.
on rubbing shoulders and
Yeah, you
yeah,
were
that's kind of
all
how I
about
moved,
shaking
man.
babies and kissing
You
hands. I
know, you
see
know,
it.
so
Yeah.
but yeah, like
Uh-huh.
now
Now you don't want to shake
tw
babies
yeah,
anymore.
20, 17, 18 years later, not not so much, but
Uh,
I won't say it's out of the realm of possibility, but it's just not on my mind, at
well,
all. So,
to kind of give it a little bit more interesting perspective, and so I texted the mayor to let him know, gosh, okay, so this is like a little pat on the back type thing.
mhm,
So, I know I wouldn't say we're close, but we know of each other. I mean, I texted him.
mhm,
The first mayor of Pine Level,
mhm.
and Pine Level just got incorporated about a year or so ago. So I actually went to that annual celebration of its incorporation,
Okay.
uh, and
What?
it just the feel of it, the Pine Level Community Center.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen something start from its ground up?
No, I haven't. I have
That's
not.
and that's it's the coolest thing, man.
Wow.
It's the coolest thing. And you know, it's really neat.
Yeah.
It's really cool. So, and just to see that one day maybe Pine Level can be like a Montgomery or
Hmm.
maybe a Prattville
Right.
or a
Right.
Hope, and
Right.
just I don't know how I can be a part of it and help it get to that place, but I think that'd be pretty cool to have a heart for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Really, man.
Because,
Yeah.
you think about a city like Montgomery, it's been around for hundreds of years now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's think about Prattville, hundreds of years. But now this, like I said, I don't know how a town incorporates. I thought Pine Level was already incorporated, but
Right.
it's now incorporated. I'm like, this is cool. I want to be a part of this.
Yeah, and I think that feeling that you captured right there, I think that's ideally, man, that's what's special about cities, like in communities. But speaking of cities, when people have that kind of pride, and I think, you know, I do see that come out in Montgomery when there's, unfortunately, when something terrible happens, finally people come to the table. You look
Right.
at, these city hall meetings and things like that, and you can see
Yes.
then like these people still have pride. You
Pride.
can see there's pride in the city, and I think that's what makes
Right.
a city special. But I think, I mean, having a city, having your own,
Yes.
and I think
Identity.
we just, yeah, the identity. We need to have more of an identity when things are going well. When
Yes.
outside of the
Yes.
tragedies and things, I don't. It's just not. Just doesn't seem very. I'm not gonna say not very unified because I think a lot of people want things, but I think that's part of the task of leadership, being able to gel different communities within the city together and be on the same synergy where, you know,
Is it because they think that,
yeah,
the good is a standard and they get
I think
complacent with
so. I
it?
th I think that's like
You
human
know?
nature almost. That's what
So like we
happens
get
to us, man.
complacent, like life is supposed to be good, so we don't need to celebrate
It's like that. It's
it.
even like that, in school. If I was teachers, unfortunately, sometimes the students that are acting out get more attention than the students
Yes,
that are doing what they're supposed to do. Well, that
yes,
should be celebrated, but it
yeah,
is you expect kids to respect
yes,
the classroom environment and
yes,
everything, but
yes.
we should reward them as well. Find
And it's
ways.
like we
Yeah,
don't do that.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
and you're right. It's like even at the most basic level, like
Yeah.
in a school, that's not celebrated.
Right,
But
right.
I
Sometimes.
told Evie yesterday after she it was like senior day. I don't know what it was. Okay. This is all new to me. Senior day where a little gets paired up with a senior. So they had him out on the football field. And I guess you have to pay to participate. And so every senior gets paired up with the little. So we paid. So Evie got to participate. So that's now going to be our tradition. So that when Bishop, we're going to pay for him, and if Evie does it up through whatever kindergarten, we're gonna keep paying. I mean, it's not that much; it's like $5 or whatever.
Yeah.
But it they what they do is they call out the senior, tell them like a little bit of background about them, tell them what they're going to do after they graduate high school, and they pair them up with whoever from pre-K four or kindergarten, and the little kindergarten kid comes out and brings out a little gift, and then the senior's got a gift from them. My God, my
That's
baby,
cool.
my
Uh,
baby. I gotta send you the video. It's about a minute
please.
long. She tries to get out there. She gets all tangled up in the balloon. Like all like there were literally I don't know how many kids before her. She's the only one that gets tangled up. And you know
Wow.
what? I didn't make her feel bad about it at all. Didn't, at all. I just said, I'm so proud of you. You did such a great job. You know,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love you. I'm so proud of you.
That's
You
great,
know,
man. That's great.
just
Yeah, man.
celebrated
Just
that.
celebrate. Yeah.
Celebrated her.
Yeah,
Because it's a
man.
good thing.
It
And
is.
that's when we just need to be active, really active about doing that. I think if we start doing that, maybe in the school, that'll get reflected back into the home, and hopefully in the home it gets reflected back out in the school. Just find some way to kind of
Yeah.
reflect it back and forth until
Yeah.
finally we get to a place where we're celebrating it at the the town hall level, at the city
Right.
level, until the
Right.
community level. Somebody's got to be the catalyst for this movement, just like
Yeah.
spoken word was a movement.
Yeah.
Somebody has to be just say, hey, yeah, we got enough bad stuff going on. Let's start cheering loudly for the good things too.
Yeah, man. James, I'm I'm sitting here listening to you. I'm thinking, man, you inspire me. You're talking about somebody's got to be a catalyst to the movement. We've been talking about family. We've been talking about community, education. And you know what's funny?
Yes,
Lately I've been thinking, I actually am launching it's fall, so it's hoodie season. So I'm about to start
yes,
advertising. But I was telling some of my kids about the MC life, and I was telling them about the acronym MC, how it stands for educated, motivated, committed, esteemed, and empowered. But then I gave them a long acronym. I said, this is even more meaningful: educated for purpose, motivated by vision, committed to family, esteemed by community, empowered by God. So, and I'm really like, I really do want that to be. I do want the MC life, man, really to be something that's empowering. Like it's a brand, but it's a lifestyle brand. I have to
yeah.
do a better job and
We'll just
of
start it today.
communicating that. Yeah,
Just start
communicating that to people,
start it
man.
today. Start it this morning.
Yeah.
Start it every morning. If you know the thing about self-lending, I cannot be an advocate of self-lending if I am not willing to practice what I preach.
Yeah.
If I'm not willing to do it every day, and when I pull money out of savings, charge myself interest when I'm putting it back in, then I don't believe it. I don't, if I'm not willing to take it to the next step of putting it into building it into the website, then I don't believe it. I can talk about it all day long, but until I actually start doing it and living and breathing it, and again, if it becomes your purpose and what you're supposed to do with your life, you breathe it, you eat it. You
That's
don't. It's
right.
like,
That's
I
right.
want to. It becomes so infectious. People want to pay you for it. When people want to start paying you for it, then that's when you know it's
Put
meant
me
to be.
on
But
there.
it's a lifestyle. It
Yeah.
is a
Put me on there.
lifestyle, and this is what and what I want you to do because it begins and ends with an E. Okay, think about
Okay.
this. Flip it. Flip it.
Hmm.
All right. Instead of wherever it started at, let's start where it begins, empowered by
Empowered by
God.
God. Yeah. Yeah.
Because from that power, everything else follows.
That's right. That's
Everything
right,
else
man.
follows. So start that way.
Yeah.
Because it begins and ends with E, just start with that E, empowered by God. And then in that way, you're celebrating the Lord, you're giving him glory, and it's going to flow. Everything else is going to flow out of it. Again, you MC, when I think of MC, I never knew what that word meant, but now I know that it means master of ceremonies.
Right, right, right.
So you're a master of ceremonies of your own life.
Exactly. You
So
got it.
the E, if you instead of starting it with what you had started it with,
Yeah,
flip it, start it with empowered by God,
got it.
the
So,
master of ceremonies of your life.
yeah. And that's the theme. That's the whole
Yes,
theme of it. It is
yes,
about everybody is the MC of their own life, with God
yes.
being the director and
All the world
producer.
is a stage, and we just
All the
act
words
on it.
exactly. Um, Let me see how that would flow. That might even because I had a flow, but let me see. Empowered by God, motivated by vision, committed to family, esteemed by community, educated for purpose. I mean, that still
It still
works.
flows.
Still flows. And I kind of looked at it like this, even though that was the last E, I looked at it like this, but that's the foundation. So
It's the
it's still, and
foundation.
it's almost like it goes back in
If
order
you bring
of
it back,
importance.
yes. And remember, it's the order first mentioned. Think
Okay.
people will stick with what's mentioned first.
Ah,
Think about
okay.
what's going to get mentioned first. You bring bad news to somebody first, where are they going to think about the bad news? But if you bring the good news first,
Mm,
then that's what's going to stick first.
my brother. My brother. Okay. I gotta look at that now. Yeah, man.
Uh-huh.
Empowered by God, motivated by vision, committed to family, esteemed by community, educated for purpose. Okay.
Yeah, because
Yeah, man.
okay, so how it works, uh, know God, find freedom, uh, discover purpose, make a difference. Those are the four core tenets of the church, my church, Church of Highlands.
Hmm.
Know God,
Yeah.
make a difference. So Powered by God,
Mo motive.
established to make a
Yeah.
book a purpose. See,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're starting with the vertical, and
Right, right,
then
right, right,
it's
right.
spreading out into the horizontal.
It makes sense. Got it. Okay. Thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah.
Don't think me, that's the Lord.
Yeah, man.
I
Like
didn't do
that.
anything. I just took the order and just reversed
You know,
it.
it's funny though because I've always kind of like when I was making out the acronym, I was trying to make it flow a certain way, and I always kind of like when I even when I had that at the end, it's like man, it'd be nice if it was at the beginning. Like it just I the flow wasn't the same, but I'm gonna you got me at least
Think
going
about
back
it
to the
this way.
tape.
Think about it this way. I want you to think about it this way. Okay. When I first started playing basketball, this will make sense, trust me. When I first started playing basketball, I sucked. And even now today, I suck at basketball. But when I first started shooting at basketball, I shot right-handed.
Okay.
But when we played basketball, I shoot left-handed.
Uh-huh.
It just felt more natural left-handed because I'm a left-handed. I write left-handed. So it's going to feel weird at first,
Okay.
but give it some time and it may naturally flow that way. Again, it's your brain
Yeah.
maybe thinking over analyzing. But if you flip it, give it a little bit of time, and that may be the way it's supposed to flow.
I can actually see this now, bro. What I had to do was write it out. I'm
Mm-hmm.
visual. And now it actually makes sense. Empowered by God, motivate. Because God, okay, we know that's the foundation, and we have his spirit, but then even the second line makes sense. God gives us vision. The second
Yep.
line is now motivated by vision.
Yep.
Okay. Then God puts us in families, and that's the strongest unit in the society. The next one is committed to family. So we're empowered by God, we're motivated by the vision he gives us, we're committed to our family, and because of that, we're esteemed by community. Our community supports us and we support others. And then because of that, now we're educated for purpose. Bro, how did that happen? That's
God.
great. Amen.
God. We started. We
It just
started.
need to be
We
flipped.
started by this episode by me telling you about this spirit, this channel, YouTube channel called The Deep End, and this
Oh
guy
my
who's a
goodness.
business owner. Who's a business owner. He's not a pastor. He's a business owner. He talks about spiritual topics. We started about spiritual topics, and then it flowed into talking about community, talking about the things that are going on in society, talking about a very spiritual thing, which is anti-human. And then what we're talking about is the Lord and how he wants to empower humanity, his creation. So, that's it.
That's
It's all about
amazing.
it's all about everything around us.
We just, amen. God just, we just like retool like the mantra
And look
of
how
a
quickly it
brand.
happened too. It
Wow.
literally happened in less than a minute.
Bro, and I
And
really
so
think,
how it fits.
yeah, I
And think
really
about
think
it
that's
too,
gonna
where
go,
you're
yeah,
going to, where you're educating at,
yeah, yeah,
your
for sure.
audience now,
Yeah,
they can really grab onto it harder.
that's right. That's right.
And
Oh
you
yeah,
can
for
use this
sure.
story as a guide.
Yeah, man.
You
Yeah.
can usually, hey, we're sitting here talking to my friend James. He's silly, he's
That should be
Asian.
first.
He talks with a funny accent from time to time, but this is boom,
Wow. God
just
first.
flipped it.
You need vision, then your family, your community,
Yep.
now your purpose.
Yep.
Because you really do need those things before, because, purpose is great.
Yeah.
We're definitely, God has given us a purpose, but these are things that are foundational. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to remember that it's God who's empowered you, the vision. You gotta have a vision. Without it, you'll perish.
You
You,
need
you
power.
family. You need to respect your family. You need to appreciate whatever family God has given you, whether it's blood related or even if you're adopted or something. Whoever God's provided for you, family, you need to be committed to them. And then the community. That's just respect for people, respect for your society, your community,
Hmm.
people around you. And then if you have those perspectives, now you can fulfill your purpose. You can be educated for purpose because you got your perspective right. You got the perspective
So,
right.
so I told you about how crazy I was, still am, that I tried to make basketball into a religion on the Church of Basketball and all that stuff. Remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
So I just had an idea pop in my mind. What about the MC Academy?
The MC. I mean, I'm sure. This is
MC
probably
Academy?
something. This is probably something
Much
that you.
bigger.
Well, yeah, man, and I'm sure I've actually got a Facebook page that I never developed called the MC Life Academy. And so the fact that you're bringing it up, man, it may be something that who knows that that need to develop at some point because that was the vision at one point in time.
Hmm.
And a
We just
big
call it
part
the MC Academy. It works. Just drop the life.
just dropped a life.
MC Academy, because everything
MC
is
Academy.
core. Its core tenets are
It's
developed around
built
EC.
in. It's
Yeah,
built in.
EMCEE. Yeah,
MC
hell, you could
Academy.
call it. You could call it MC. But it would be. There's too many EMCEE.com. It's probably already taken. But MC Live. That. It's its own unique identity from an intellectual property standpoint.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah,
And
that's
I paid, God bless me, I paid the dollar. You realize I've trademarked the MC Life not only as an online resource for courses and books. So that's hence the publishing company, all that. MC Life is trademarked. I also trademarked the clothing brand. So I've gone through the legal process, paid the
yeah,
money. It's
yeah.
trademarked for a clothing brand and online
Wow. Yeah,
resources and books
that's
things.
smart. That's
Yeah,
smart.
man. That's some
Um,
years putting in right there,
that
man.
is some years
Yeah,
of time,
sometimes
energy, and
yeah.
money, and
Yeah.
all that. Yeah. Well, eventually, you know, I don't think we've ever. I think, at some point, need to look through the financial. I need to tap into my
Yeah.
credit underwriting side of it and kind of look at the financial side of it and
Yeah.
just kind of analyze it. So I
Yeah.
had lunch yesterday with young Cameron. Um, his dad is, I think he's CFO of a university, I think. But he wanted to have lunch, and I didn't know what he wanted to have lunch about. So my mind immediately thought about work. It's like, hey, this is what you can do better. This is what you need to do if you want to advance your career. But he kind of young man bought my lunch.
Mhm.
You know, he I think of him as 23, but he's like 27. So
Okay.
yeah, he's a
Yeah.
lot older.
Yeah.
He's a lot older than younger. Um, but he asked my thoughts on he wanted to build a barn dominium.
Mhm.
And so like I told him, it's like, look, if you want to do this, you've got to acquire the land. Okay. So the lot is that he was looking at was like 70,000, 3 acres, Pike Road area. So I was like, well, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to acquire the lot. Ideally, you want to make sure the lot is already developed, meaning it has utilities, has your water, your electric, your plumbing, all those basic utilities. Because if you don't, if it's just vacant raw land, then you've got to develop it. So usually on the loan to value on land, the way the bank does it, 65% loan to value, meaning we will finance 65%. You've got to inject cash of 35%.
Mhm.
So with a developed lot, I believe it's either 70% or 75%. 25%, we lend you the other 75. So $70,000, looking like 10 grand, whatnot. So I explained to him, like, your lot plus your construction cost, that equals out to your value that we can give. Okay. Now, a mortgage company or a bank loans on the lesser of loan to cost, loan to value. So your value is at 300,000. Cost to build is 280. We're going to lend on the lesser, which is 280. 20% of that from the mortgage side, you have to inject that at closing. So I don't know the exact math off the top of my head, but let's just say it's 65,000. You got to have 65,000 to put into your construction account.
Mm,
Liquid, liquid. The reason why is if we're financing the 80%, you've got to have that 20% anyways to complete the build. So we're not going to
right,
take on good faith that you've got 65 because if not, the project's not going to get finished.
right.
So inject it at the end or at the closing table. Most people don't have that. So he's like, man, it costs that much? It's like, well, yeah, yeah. Think about it this way. Think about it from an investor standpoint. I'm giving you, loaning to you at an interest rate 80% with 268,000. Now that's, let's just say for round numbers, that's $200,000.
Mhm.
It's a loan. I expect it to be paid back. Do you think I want to take the risk that you don't have the money to inject the 20% right then and
Mm-mm.
there to complete a construction, ground up construction? With
Right,
constructions, there's delays, material costs, all
exactly.
these things. You're going to run over budget. I 90% of the time, people run over budget. The budget, not the loan amount, the budget. So, I mean, that's just an education process for him. But what I told him was like, okay, now you can either do that or you can go out and get your first home. The government, mortgage companies, they want people to buy homes. You buy homes, what do you pay typically when you own a home? Homeowners insurance and property taxes. How do cities, towns operate? Property taxes. You know what I'm saying? If they're not,
Hmm.
if you don't have property taxes, then there's a tax somewhere to keep civilization up and running.
Right.
So, with that, that's why your first time home buyers, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, whatever, you're only required to put at a minimum of your first time home buyer 5% down. 5% down versus your 20, your 10, 20%.
Right.
So in between that gap of 20%, how do they make up the difference? There's mortgage insurance that gets paid. Okay, that's why the 5% exists.
Hmm.
Now, most banks have portfolio programs where if you're an affordable housing type home buyer, you can get 100% financing and we don't charge you mortgage insurance. The reason why is we get community reinvestment credit for doing that type of a loan. But there's income requirements and things like that. There's loan limits on how much you can get as a home. But these are the things that I educated him on. These are
Right.
things that are important for people in your class to know, for people in the community to know. And it's all again, it all kind of all flows back to humanity and
It
society.
does, man. Yeah, we're gonna I can see, me and you, we've toyed with the idea for a while, man, just collaborating on doing some things with training, people between
I'm in.
finances and
I'm
things.
in.
Yeah,
I'm
man,
there now.
that's gonna happen, man. Good, good, good.
I'm
Yes,
there.
that's
I
that.
think I think I'd be okay. After
Yeah,
episodes, however many we've done, I'm
yeah,
comfortable with talking.
yeah, yeah. We're gonna do it, man. So this has been very productive, I feel. As usual, right? It's a pound, yeah, as normal,
I know
man.
what's going on.
So about to go get her something to eat. All right, my brother, I
Hi.
love you, man. Graham. So Uncle James said, hey.
Hi. Hi.
She can't hear
I
you
love
though.
you.
He said, I love you.
I love
All
you.
right, that's Ava. All right, bro. Man, have
All
a
right.
wonderful rest of your Saturday, man. You and the family.
Thank
Talk
you.
to you soon. All right.
Talk to you soon. Love
Bye.
it.
See you.
Bye.
Love you.